Turn out the lights. It's the poltergeist report. Alright, so what we talking about here today? Well, you know what? First quarter, before I forget myself, let me turn up for the people one time. Alright. Yo, shout out to everybody in the city. Orlando doing big things. We really coming up right now. You know what I'm saying? Shout out the whole Central Florida area. You know, shout out Winter Park. You know, shout out the whole section, Dogs on Maitland. Now, what we're going to get in today, you know what I'm saying? Let's get there right now. We're going to talk about the situation going on with Tory Lanez and Meg Thee Stallion. So today, hot off the presses, the legendary Texas OG, Bun B, has now stepped up on the side of Meg Thee Stallion to basically say, this ain't going down. Like, nobody's gonna hurt Texas female rappers, right? You know, Texas, they protect their women. So I think, actually, I totally agree with him, you know, especially with, like, Meg really being a big presence representing Texas, and she's doing great numbers all over there, all kinds of shit, right? I think this is the right move. If more Texas rappers would step up, I feel like it shouldn't have been Bun B first. I feel like, you know, more of the people claiming to represent and be the head and the movement of the Houston rap scene should have, you know, stepped up before him. More of like Meg's contemporaries. Like, I think Sauce Walka should have stepped up. I think Maxo Cream should have stepped up. I feel like, you know, a lot of people should have stepped up on behalf of Meg Thee Stallion, who couldn't defend herself. Now, for whatever reason, these people didn't do these things, and it is what it is. But I'm glad somebody did, you know, and it's a close home figure. So I think this is good for the rap game, and it shows some type of solidarity. Because, like, right now in the rap game, you got niggas running around snitching. You got all kinds of crazy shit going on out there in the world. And right now, a lot of bitch nigga shit is just getting put on. You know what I'm saying? So, I think right now, this is the move. Now, what's going to result in this, right? Because we know Tory Lanez is connected to some people who are with the shit. You know, he with them boys, Pressa and them from the Wasp gang. I don't know if they really on that, you know, shit like they say, but definitely with a lot of the shit that's been coming out of the whole Toronto area, you know, there's some real hitters out there. But see, Texas ain't no joke either, man. Like, Texas got big guns, flexing like a Texan all day, bro. And I would just like to see what this more devolves into, because, listen, dog, it's not cool to hit women or beat women. I know, like, with right now, with, like, how popular pimping has become and everybody, you know, just thinks, like, they can just beat the fuck out of their hoe. That's not the move, bro. Like, you shouldn't be putting your hands on women. And, you know, I'm really glad to see this happen, like I said, at the end of the day. So we're going to move on for this one, right? Now, another thing, right, I want to talk about in terms of things heating up. Right now, I know I talked about, you know, the whole King Von thing and the FGB beef going on right now. And I want to bring that up again and rehash that, because it looks like, right, in the whole war between the BDGD, it's always been kind of seen that Duck was the only, like, real standout figure on the GD side. And now, right, one of Duck's homies has really stepped it up in the booth and has started releasing a lot more music in diss tracks, and that's Fetty Boy. Now, for those of you that don't know, Fetty Boy is GD. He comes from that 63rd area. tight homies with Duck. He wasn't as popping before, but now he's really starting to pop. And I think it goes to show that a lot of people thought FBG was over, but it's clear to see it's not. FBG is really, really coming together as I would say, sparking its rap wave right now. As Fetty Boy and other people from 63rd and the whole FBG movement start to take off, I definitely believe that at this point, that's what it's gonna come to. You know, like, you're gonna get now because when someone dies, you know, you always get more focus, more popularity, more attention, right? So now a lot of the people who are going to be making the responses to the diss tracks that are coming from King Von and other people who don't like the 63rd guys, that right there is gonna be going extra dumb, right? And you also got to remember too, 600 is also going at the FBG boys, right? But they're coming back now, and it's going to be interesting to see if someone could really reach the millions of dollars and big stardom that some of the people on the BD side have, because that whole, see, when, like, a lot of people, right, and I'm going to give you guys a perspective in this mixtape, on this podcast, mix, whatever, right, that's gonna really point a few things out. When you're at war in the streets, right, and you have one side that is getting a lot of money, right, and they're painting a bigger picture, and, you know, with that comes a license to, you know, say what you want to say, right? And a part of that is the diss tracks and the money made from it. As you know, a lot of people now say, you know, Tuka for weed, but they don't know that Tuka was a GD who got gunned down at the age of 16, right? But see, Chief Keef's ops also respond by saying they smoke Blood Money packs, which is Chief Keef's cousin, smoke LA packs, you know, all kinds of shit like that. So this thing happens, right, where the side that has more of the media focus, right, they have to paint themselves as the winner. So, for example, in one of King Von's most recent songs with the guy Duty Boy, what the fuck kind of name is Duty Boy? Like, nigga sounds like a shit stain. But when he was saying, like, oh, the score is 6-26, go look at the news report, see some of the reporting, see the war in Chirac, see a lot of those things. The score is a lot more even than 6-26, right? And there's lies and exaggerations that go on both sides, obviously. And whenever a gang is trying to present themselves, right, they want to present themselves like they're much harder than their ops and like their ops are nothing. But there is no such thing. Like, you know, I've been in the streets since I was 18. I hopped off the porch and I was going hard till I hit 24. Right, and I had, you know, and now I'm 25, and I'm, you know, now focusing on rap and the whole podcast game, but you're gonna take losses on both sides. A lot of the people are gonna die. Like, there's no such thing as you just go and slide on your ops and there's no retaliation. Even if, like, I've been in the streets and I've seen it where, like, you'll have a whole set of dudes as pussy. They food, and they get 8. Somebody's going to slide on them. It just takes that one person who's gonna be like, nah, fuck that. And they're gonna come back and they're gonna really hurt you, right? And that kind of stuff pushes out, into more areas, because shit just be crazy. But I don't know anything to like anything specific. But just like the average person needs to like know and see the truth that no matter what anyone says, no matter how hard the click is, someone's killed somebody from their team. Somebody's touched someone that's related to that person. Maybe they didn't get them, but it's still, it's a tit for tat kind of world out there, and nobody's untouchable. There's no such thing as having an untouchable gang, right? And in that aspect, right, I would like to bring up a similar situation, right? Now, Maxo Cream is one of my favorite rappers, right? Bringing it back to Texas. And a thing about Maxo Cream, right? He has a lyric where he says, oh, you screaming cream click killer, but you ain't kill no cream click niggas. But his brother Money Dude was recently gunned down. Right? Now, one thing I'll say about Maxo is he does something that a lot of people don't do in this situation, where he's now putting on the name of Money Dude. And I think a few people have done this like very well, like Fredo Bang, things like that, right? And when you do that, right, that type of person is more transparent. And see, to me, it makes me believe someone more, because I know it's impossible, right? Shoot enough people, rob enough people, there's going to be at least one person eventually that's going to have the balls to come back and get their revenge. Be it a real nigga or a bitch or whatever you want to call it, like, people will come back. People will, like, not everybody is pussy. And, there's a real nigga wherever you go. There's a killer in every city, every state, every town, you know what I'm saying? All of that. Now, in other news, right, I'm kind of late to this, but the podcaster beef with all of the Adam 22s and the fucking DJ Academics, you know what I'm saying, shit like that. It's very interesting to see how a lot of these podcasters, right, are beefing. And you see people like DJ Academics, who just loves to like yell on the internet, man. We gotta stop this in the rap game, because I feel like this whole situation of like having this super hyped up energy online, but not having it in person, and then admitting to, if you saw the person in person, you probably wouldn't have had the same energy. Like, you can't really be out here doing shit like that, because it's like, okay, you say this now, but like, what if, right, turn around, what if Adam 22 secretly behind closed doors was like the biggest killer you ever fucking seen, right? And nobody knew, right? And then bam, he just pulls out on Academics, and he just has the goons whooping on him or some other type of shit. I don't know. But like in these situations, like, people gotta understand, like, you need to like not like, you can't say something and then like have it later it's like, yo, oh yeah, I gotta hush my lips, say sorry, apologize. Like, that type of shit is weak. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can't like be fucking with that at all, right? Now, another thing, right, that I want to explain is shit that's, kind of interesting, right? I want to talk about the group dynamic, right? The group dynamic in hip hop, I think, is one of the most interesting things because it really requires a lot of people to come together and be able to focus, on a specific, area of the game. And the thing I feel is that the hip hop game is designed to break up groups in a sense, because whenever a group forms, what's the first thing anybody starts saying around them? Groups don't last, right? But it would have lasted if none of you would have ever became famous, if you didn't let the money and the people around you change you. See, now I think that's what happened in the case of RBESOB, Shoreline Mafia, and even in a sense YBN, right? If you look at these groups, right, they are very oriented first with personal connections. If you look at SOBRB and Shoreline Mafia, but when you have the game pushing against you, saying like, "No, you're gonna break up," blah blah blah, like groups never last, it kind of puts this seed in your mind where it's like, okay, in the future I have to be thinking like, okay, in the end it's for myself, right? And people lose that camaraderie and brotherhood. But the problem is, right, is those same people that you're gonna have around you later, you couldn't trust them like the guy that you came up with, the dude that you slept on couches with, was homeless with, grinded with, and you got your success together. At the end of the day, that's the only person you could possibly ever potentially think about trusting. Now in the streets, you can't really trust anybody, because even your best friend day one, moms used to have you in the crib, born on the same day type shit. That's how long y'all known each other. Nah, because when money breed jealousy, right? Unless you can inspire love. Right now, that's against the Jew for you right there, right? Because you need people, right, in a sense, to love you enough to respect you, trust you, but fear you enough not to cross you, right? And I think with groups, because of how close people get and all these dynamics, you run into a situation where the original golden product that got everybody there just doesn't work anymore, And I feel like in the case of Shoreline, I feel like the people who really suffer there are Rob Vicious and Master Kato, because I feel like Phoenix and OGZ are going to be fine because they work better and harder as solo acts, and they can really push themselves. If you look at Rob Vicious, I would say if anybody, like if any of him or Master Kato had, like, I would say who had the most potential to be a star on their own, it would definitely be Rob Vicious. But, he just doesn't push the solo work as much, right? Now, Master Kato, like, who's heard from that nigga? I haven't heard from that nigga in a minute. Has anybody heard a solo song from this nigga? I don't even know. So, those are the people, right, who are, I would say, most likely to suffer from the breaking up of the group. Now, could it be like this is like the spark they needed to really get working on a lot of their own music and stuff like that? Shit, I don't know. It might be. And you might have the first time in hip hop that a group this big breaks apart and you have 4 equally as strong solo acts. But anything's potentially possible, right? Now, when we move over into the case of RBESOB, there's all types of allegations of snitching and shit in the streets and things like that. And I think the thing with that is when you add that street element of like people having paperwork on them, and you mix the the whole street affiliation thing, it gets messy. Because, you know, that paperwork, right? Like, let's say if they pop out, you know, if Young T.O. pops out with paperwork on, like, the boy or somebody else in the group, right, is gonna be bad. Now, what I think it would pop out on the boy, I don't think so. But it has to another member whose name I won't bring up because we don't give snitches any clout around here. You know, so when it comes to that part, yeah, definitely that group, I don't see them getting back together anytime soon. But of that, I think Young T.O. and Da Boy are most likely the ones who are going to emerge as the better, successful solo acts. Do I think this is good for the group overall? I don't know. Maybe you could say it would do better for Da Boy and Young T.O., but I don't think this is as good a move to have that great working roster together. You know, because in the case of Shoreline Mafia, Phoenix Flexin and especially OGZ, they benefit so much harder from just being their own thing and in control of what they're doing than RBESOB, because if you look at the entire, you know, discography and if you look at the entire career of Shoreline, it's always been said that Phoenix Flexin and OGZ stand out very far above the rest in that a lot of people wanted to see already solo OGZ stuff, and you know, there was a lot of things going on where people wanted to just work with OGZ or Phoenix, and you know, the same love wasn't kind of like reciprocated to the other group. So whereas RBESOB, it's always kind of been people kind of worked more with the whole group outside of maybe, you know, Young T.O. had a lot of stuff with other people in other camps, and Da Boy, he had a lot of solo stuff, but their major wave came when the whole group was together because, you know, Shoreline music just sounded like four dudes who were pretty raw at rapping hopped on a beat, and it sounded good because you had four good rappers. RBESOB, it was more like they came together to make one like unique solid sound together, because Da Boy without his, you know, Da Boy and Young T.O. without, you know, the whole rest of the group, they sound very different within themselves. But you know, I still like, you know, see Da Boy and Young T.O. doing really good, but everybody else is gonna suffer. But yeah, I feel like they were better off together than apart, to whereas Shoreline, I think it's probably better for the whole group to be apart, and like that's really gonna see who was just riding the coattails of everybody else. Now, for YBN, I feel like that whole situation was a straight sucker move, because YBN, right? Corday definitely used Namir to pop, and I think it was the same thing with Almighty J. They might as well have been industry plants, because you could just tell like they weren't really coming up together. There was no actual bond built. You know, they were just friends who played the game. And you know, when you have that kind of dynamic and you start seeing that on camera and people are uncomfortable with each other, because it's a very different thing to spend a lot of person with the time in a virtual world where, you know, the only real thing you're like experiencing about them is like their voice, in comparison to, you know, actually like, okay, yeah, like you really in the same room as a nigga now, like all his hygiene and cleanliness and, you know, his mannerisms and shit like that, and you know, how conflict resolution, all that shit gets tested. You know, and at the end of the day, I feel like this was a calculated move by Corday, who from day one, like if you look at it, like he was always trying to be more of just a himself thing, you know, of just I want to be like my own artist, and that reflects in their discography. Because if you look at it, the main people who had a lot of work together was Almighty J and Amir, and Corday was just riding a clout train, and he wanted to go up with the train, and so he did it, and he figured out how. Now, do I say shit on him for that? Yeah, that's kind of some snake ass shit. You a fuck nigga for that, but is what it is, right? Now, let's get into the real juicy shit, right? We're talking Trippie Redd and KSI, right? So, Trippie Redd was saying how, yeah, thank you KSI for paying for my studio, whatever. Kind of, just shitting on him a little bit, talking about how, it was like, oh yeah, thanks for paying for my studio with our song, and yeah, you do good, because he doesn't really give a fuck about what he gotta say, right? Now KSI responds, and he makes a good few points. He says, only hit in the UK in the top 20, which if you listen to Trippie Redd, he's not a UK artist and doesn't make music that would sound good to the UK palate, so of course he wouldn't chart well in the UK without you, who clearly does. But let's say the real thing here, though. KSI is not a real artist. Most of his shit doesn't go anywhere. Could KSI sell a show out right now? Could KSI do a festival? No. Could Trippie Redd? Yes. Right? And here's another thing. Trippie Redd has a star power that KSI does not. And, he doesn't want that element, and he should not go back and forth. Or at least if he does, don't cross the gangster line and leave it be, because he doesn't want those problems with Trippie Redd. Yeah. Now, moving on. Selena Powell was shitting on everybody. That hoe, yo, she be exposing. I don't get why everybody be so down to just throw niggas under the bus. Bruh. That niggas ain't gonna fuck with you too hard if you just kind of keep exposing niggas. So, any nigga that fucks with Selena Powell, you're a fucking dumbass. On everything. I don't know what's wrong with you. That's like idiots back in the early 2000s who was messing with Cat Stacks. You're dumb. Can't trust no bitches like that, man. These niggas, see, this is why young niggas should listen to old head music so they can teach y'all about something. Because y'all niggas don't know. Alright? Now, we gonna take this shit up to Boston, right? Now, in Boston, there's a group with your boy 7901 Cal and the other nigga Rico. They've been making it hot out in Boston, but it's over for them now. Rico case came and hit them. Everybody's getting packed up. Everybody's getting closed in. The whole point I wanted to speak on this, even though it was a month old, rappers need to stop putting themselves in a situation where this shit can even happen. How are you gonna go recreate murders on your own videos and self-snitching? That don't even make no sense. But shit. Man, we're about to get up out of here. Sun's coming up. And it's time for the poltergeist to disappear. Wait until next time we turn out the lights for the poltergeist report.